Ambiguity obviously is a non-negotiable part of everybody's life, work life. I mean, my plan was just, or my sort of motivation was just to move from the execution and the planning stage to more of a solution and problem identification stage. A lot of chances for you to grow because digital product industry is something which has a disproportionate growth. It's not a linear growth. It's some weird non-algorithmic growth that this industry has seen in past 10 years. Or if you make somebody feel like a true owner, they'll stop doing things that in turn have a secondary impact of frustrating you. And the true owner is somebody who takes a problem statement, thinks that it is the question of his or her life and death.
Very cool. सबसे पहले तो आदित्य, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming in. I think, which is again, I started it from someone who I really respect and admire for the kind of work that you have done in your life. Right? So thank you very much. Super grateful for coming here, speaking with the students. सबसे पहले तो यही बोलूंगा मैं. Yes.
Thanks. So thanks a lot for calling me. It's I know you're doing some amazing work, and I have seen you working. I usually learn a lot from you. So uh, I'm definitely sure that I'm here to not just share my experiences, but to also learn from this cohort, and will sort of continue to be a part of this journey together along with all of you who are here today.
That's very nice of you to say. Thank you very much. So, Janta, even before I kind of start the conversation, I just want to do like a very basic introduction, right? Again, it's a poor job of mine to introduce him, but then again, let me try to do whatever little I can do over there, right? So, Aditya, again, the first thing that I want to tell you is comes from a very non-conventional product management background, right? Not the same background that you are an engineer and then you will do an MBA, probably thinking that you probably end up in a tech or a product role. He is a CA and a CS, right? So that is so if and you realize the extent that you become CA and CSs in our country, it takes a lot of effort to essentially become a CA, right? So मेहनती तो वो पहले से थे, ये तो मैं आपको पहले ही बता देता हूँ, ठीक है? Over post that he spent some time in HUL as a finance partner. Obviously, his background was that only, and eventually over time he joined ISB, which is again one of the premier B schools in the country, and he spent considerable time there. And post that, he spent some time in this company, which is a travel tech company, and I guess all of you would have seen by now, known about Headout, right? I had shared the link across, right? It's a travel tech company which does over $25 million as a early partner on retention and CRM structures. And post that, he joined an academy as an associate director of product, right? And in his most recent role, he's the director of product at Headout. Again, Headout is a small company. It's the right kind of company that any entrepreneur wants to build. Less notes, more value, right? So, guys, please be on mute. I would recommend. Just a second. Yes, awesome. आदित्य, आप अपने आप को अनम्यूट कर सकते हो. जूम में वो फीचर ही नहीं है कि आपको छोड़ के मैं बाकी सबको म्यूट कर देता. ठीक है, you can unmute yourself. So again, so the last thing that I would want to say is currently the director of product at Headout, which is again a travel tech company which essentially enables travelers to do better discovery for people who want to travel across the globe, right? And there are a lot of challenges they have seen, especially जब COVID आया. So the journey has been very different and I'm sure the insights that Aditya will give across would be super lovely. So again, Aditya, this is the least kind of introduction that I can do.
You've been very generous. Thanks everyone for
awesome. Awesome. एक और चीज,
telling good things about me.
एक और छोटी सी चीज. The session is structured in two ways, right? The first is that in the first 30 minutes, I'll ask some questions because I also have some questions which I need to ask him. So I'll do that. And the remaining 30 to 40 minutes, I would want by that time, all of you guys, right? Think of some good questions that you essentially want to ask. In the interest of time, I would be able to take 5-6 questions, right? And going forward, we would essentially create a better structure of how people ask questions. But in the interest of time, these should be good questions if you feel so, or if you feel that you want to put it in the chat at that point. अगर किसी का chance नहीं आया, for that matter, तो आप chat में भी डाल सकते हो, जो मैं आगे आदित्य को pass on कर दूंगा, and he will essentially put it across. But 5-6 questions, especially I will try to take 1 or 2 from the women's side and 3-4 questions from the men's side, right? That is something that I will try to do in the interest of time. ठीक है. Aditya, some opening words? Yes.
Great. So yeah, pretty excited. I know that you all are aspiring to enter into your journey as PMs, and definitely looking forward to talk to you and to make sure that my journey, my experiences probably tell you something that might help you along the way. In sort of breaking into the product management and then sort of building your career as a product operator. And at the same time, would definitely love to hear your questions and learn more about you and finding ways to sort of work and make sure that I help people in any way possible. Thanks a lot, Shravan, for the kind words of introduction. Uh, Ready to kickstart and
Awesome. बहुत
let's get
बढ़िया.
right at it.
तो पहला सवाल तो बहुत ऑब्वियस सवाल जो मैं आपसे पूछना चाहता हूँ. मैं आपकी जर्नी सुनना चाहता हूँ सर. For the first
Okay.
5-8 minutes, can we just ponder over this kind of journey so that people understand the kind of effort that you've gone through and essentially वो पूरा structure. So in the most candid way, please let us know about
Yeah,
the kind of journey that you have had, essentially becoming a
definitely.
second leader in product management. Please, over to you.
Definitely. Cool. So I would start obviously from in a chronological fashion. I was a commerce student, and the only idea of a commerce student uh, doing specializations was either a chartered accountancy or company secretary or cost accounting. So I did two out of those, CA and CS, thinking that I want to become those elite investment bankers or those elite merchant bankers, anything that has to do with stock market acquisitions, listing, public issues, etc. Because I had theoretical and technical knowledge on that background, and those fields were pretty much exciting to me at that time. But by the time I graduated, when I completed my courses, there was a financial meltdown due to the subprime crisis in the US, and that sort of reduced my interest. Okay, this field is a little too dynamic, perhaps. This field is a little too unstructured, perhaps, or this field is a little too structured because there's one thing that leads to the other, and there's very little role that you can play to create a difference. Yeah, that's what I felt. Correct, incorrect perception, I don't know. And hence, I decided that I would not pursue that path, but I would pursue a path wherein uh, I'm working hands-on into a manufacturing or a services company where I'm actually able to work on the financial part, which is the financial decision making part, not just the bookkeeping, auditing, or taxation part, but a holistic decision making part. And I got that opportunity in 2011, 2012 with Hindustan Unilever. It's a dream organization. I still say that I still cherish and miss my times that I had spent at Hindustan Unilever. So Hindustan Unilever, my role was a bit unconventional. It wasn't exactly circled around finance, but it was more of a program manager role, and we did not have those designations back around at that time. So the role was primarily into how do you increase profitability of a certain category? How do you optimize on cost? And that cost would mean manufacturing cost, distribution cost, promotions cost, etc. So our targets and our objectives were around how do you optimize for profitability, how do you support the innovation? So how do you financially model what would a business of detergent tablet would look like 10 years from now? What would a business of liquid detergents would look like 10 years from now? Liquid detergents wasn't a thing back then. There was no liquid detergent on the market, but now we see that on the market. Exciting things like how do you optimize the cost. So that sort of exposed me a lot into multiple facets of business. Earlier my scope was limited of looking at things from a finance point of view, numbers point of view, profitability point of view. uh, this basically expanded my scope of or sort of my area of thinking. And that was the first time when I started thinking, okay, I want to get into management, different kinds of management, business management, operations, category, product, uh, technical, etc. I decided I want to get into the management because I want the whole full rounded table that I want to operate on, and I don't want to be sitting on just one side of the table when the decision is being made. So I want to sort of own that problem statement or that sort of a stream. Hence, venturing into management, thankfully I got best possible mentors at HUL, all the folks who are like top tier B school folks from IM, ABCs to ISBs to FMSs of the world. And they really prompted me and they really pushed me to go for an MBA, because having a different degree or having a more generic degree was the only and the best possible way forward for me to break out of this sort of finance as a structure. So I did my MBA at ISB, and at ISB I first learned about the actual world, which is the digital world. At HUL, because we were too much engulfed in detergent powders and wheel and surf and Vim liquids, didn't really have as much exposure about what's going on in the outside world. Flipkart, Amazon were barely scratching the surface, and I didn't expect that they would be seeing such a tremendous, phenomenal, triple-digit constant year-on-year growth from that period till now. So first thing that I learned at ISB, that the universe is much vast, much more vast than what I can think of. Right? I was bound by certain conditions which are, say, FMCG as an industry, business management, category management as a function, Mumbai as a city. ISB sort of helped me break through all those uh, chains and restrictions and expose me to an outside world wherein uh, why I realized that working in this particular world, working in the digital spectrum of things is helpful, because you can face challenges that nobody else has faced. So you're facing a problem that nobody else has faced. You're driving a solution which perhaps doesn't have a proof of concept. There's a lot of unstructuredness and there's a lot of things for you to do. A lot of chances for you to apply your skills, a lot of chances for you to grow, because digital product industry is something which has a disproportionate growth. It's not a linear growth. It's some weird non-algorithmic growth that this industry has seen in past 10 years. So that's when I thought that being a part of this industry would help me, and that's when I started looking out for the specific jobs. I wasn't placed from campus to the Amazon. My first job out of ISB was in Amazon, in Amazon's India advertising team, which was like a 20 crore revenue generating business at that time, with less than 25 people. Next 2.5 years, we grew to triple digit crores of annual advertising revenue, India specific. And because it was India specific, I could work on hands-on features which are very specific to Indian market, specific to Indian advertisers, specific to Indian conditions. So started diverging out of that finance structure and moved into program management role at Amazon. Uh, at Amazon, there were no clear boundaries because it was a small team between program, product, category, and everybody used to do everything like it happens in all small startups. So that's where I got my first actual hands-on product exposure while building certain uh, billing and payment specific products for India specific advertisers. Yeah, so I was at Amazon, and the 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 experience that I got there was how do you work with the world class product teams. Amazon has a global and a central product function, unlike many of others will have specific pods and product. Amazon is more global. It sort of exposed me to certain concepts which are around why to choose a certain feature, what is prioritization, how to do pipelining, how to be impact driven. Theoretical concepts that I learned from my own studies and an ISB were in full blown application mode, testing and learning, reapplying testing and learning mode at Amazon for about 3 years. I worked on a mix of product, program, and category. I was responsible for multiple objectives there. After Amazon, I moved to Headout, and I'll sort of speed up things from here because we'll talk more about Headout as we sort of progress in the conversation. At Headout, I started again. There was no product team or product structure at Headout back in 2019. I started working on CRM with an objective of increasing the retention rate, which is increasing the number of users who do repeat orders on our platform. Um, Started using like a third-party CRM service, probably working with one person. Engineering team at Headout back there was three people, and two of them, 3 or 4 people, and two of them were senior management. So they were not like hands-on coders. Slowly from 2019 till 2023, expanded the engineering team from say single digits to about 80 people now. We had only one person in design. Now we have 5 people. There was nobody in product. We formally kickstarted product as a team back in 2021. Before that, me and a bunch of other folks used to sort of drive product interventions, but there were no formal setup of a product org or a product charter. What we were essentially doing was the same thing that a product person would do, but without the overall the layer and the sort of facade and these boundaries of not the boundaries, these basically banners of being inside a product charter. So at Headout, definitely worked on a lot of things. I mean, we'll talk about some of them as we proceed. But at Headout, I actually got the first chance to see things hands-on. I got a chance to make mistakes in terms of what am I building, how am I building things. Not grave mistakes, not blunders, definitely, but got to learn a lot from these experiences that I have had over past, I would say post ISB over past 6 years. Uh, the essence, I would say, how sort of things move is I really wanted to get into management and to own things from a certain point of view. Then I felt digital product is the real deal because I can reach to a much wider audience. I can create impact. I can see those cycles much faster, and I can create a large enough impact and be like somebody who is able to grow along with the industry and also to learn because physical consumers, digital consumers, at the end of the day, consumer, you essentially are synergizing both these universes of consumer online and offline in order to make a dent in any environment that you work on. And the journey is I haven't I wouldn't say I haven't taken efforts. I did take a lot of efforts, but it's mainly a function of the blessings of all of the people who are and who have been with me in that journey. So I won't say I have sort of achieved something or I am something. It's not. It's still a long way to go. But I say that I'm constantly learning new things, applying those things, and learning new from those things. Okay, what did I do wrong, and what next, right? So that's basically my journey so far.
Sir, what interesting question. The question that you asked is quite, and the kind of answer that you gave is quite interesting. The why it is interesting would be in two principles. One, you consistently spoke about this thing that you learned a lot of concepts in ISB and you could hands-on kind of do that, right? So there are two questions that I essentially want to ask you, and I think this is a question in all people's mind. Everybody thinks that after a certain stage in life, doing an MBA essentially to get kind of a product role is the right way to kind of think about it. That's one.
Mhm.
And so what motivated you to essentially just move into management, learn about new things? That's the first small set of the question. And the
Okay.
larger set is that over time, being from a product manager to a product leader now, what are the true skills which really make a very good operator, be it a product manager, be it even a program manager for that matter, or a project
Yeah.
manager
Yeah.
for that matter? What are
Yeah.
those core skills that really stand out? That ये बंदा तो मतलब this person can really become a really nice operator in the future, right? So over to you, Aditya. Yeah.
Cool. So for your first question, what sort of prompted me? The thing that prompted me that my role at HUL, it's actually I was working hands-on with the brand managers who were handling few thousand crore rupees worth of brands entire business, the supply chain managers who were running factories which did production in lakhs of tons, uh, research and development, finance, sales, which were essentially doing something new on the lines of innovation and continuous improvement, and sales in terms of the reach out and finding new avenues to break through into new markets. So working with these folks essentially showed me, okay, these are the problem statements out there, right? uh, my plan was just or my sort of motivation was just to move from the execution and the planning stage to more of a solution and problem identification stage. So I really thought these things are exciting. I'm sure there are exciting things in the other industries or in the other functions. There are. I still feel that, for example, some of the functions that I work with closely, I still feel that ye karna chahiye. So this sounds very exciting. So basically, that sort of thing about non-initiative push that was coming in, that, okay, you have done finance, you have done CA, you can, if things don't go well, you still have your technical knowledge that can back you up into doing something else. Then why not take a chance? Why not take a chance? Because this is the right moment, right environment, things are supported. And I was very fortunate because I could take that chance. People were supportive. I had that sort of a conducive environment. People from my company were very, very supportive and encouraging me for, बस just ये सब छोड़ दो, आप वहाँ पे जाओ और, we would like to see you as a part of, the marketing team, category team, and so on and so forth. So it's a mix of trying to break through very good conditions out there, favorable conditions out there, and I thought that this is my only chance because the stereotypes were not as sort of relaxed as they were back in 2012. And I'm talking as if it's the thing of the past, but the way at the speed at which the digital economy is progressing, um, I think it's the thing of the past. So back then it wasn't possible. Now coming to the second question, I think it was around the was it around the MBA wala this
No,
thing, or
it
was it
was
more around
primarily over time, since you have seen, what are the top skills that really stand out, that this
okay,
person has the potential to become a very good operator, be it a
yeah,
product manager, if you call it product manager or program manager or whatever, and how do you want to put that across? And how do you judge that when you hire PMs, right? What do
yeah.
you look at them? That what are those factors that really kind of discern that this is somebody different from the crowd, and I would love to work with this person. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I don't have like a very structured answer to it. I'll try to structure my thoughts around it as much as I can. So when we say an operator, I mean, I take an example as an operator is anybody, irrespective of whether somebody, he or she is a leader or he or she is, a founder or he or she is working at uh, any other functional positions in the company. Being a good operator, I think it requires two things in terms of mindset, and then we'll talk about the actual skills, which are more around the personality and development skills, and then we talk about some technical skills which are not related to technology, but I'm calling them technical because they are specific to a certain theoretical cohorts that theoretical concepts that you can learn about. So first thing I believe is you need to know uh, what things will move a particular metric. If, say, an objective of your function or an organization or a particular KPI of any sort that's given to you. So, objective of my organization, for example, is to increase the repeat rate. Uh, I need to understand what are the qualifying metrics that I need to move in order to move this. For example, if the objective of my organization is to become profitable, I need to understand what are the metrics that can impact profitability. It's a simple equation, right? It's basically selling price per unit into number of units minus cost per unit, variable and fixed, is equal to your profit. So you need to know what really moves the needle to where you want to reach. So if you want to reach on the path of profitability, you need to understand what needles to move. So hence, understanding what are the metrics that matter, right? What are the metrics that matter? What are the levers that matter? Essentially, if you draw out an equation, it will give you levers. So selling price per unit or the sales per unit has two levers. Either you increase the profitability equation, either you increase the price of a product or you reduce the cost, and or you do both in order to improve the profitability, right? So you need to understand what levers. That's the most important part because that's where all your efforts and focus is going to go into, right? That's one. The second thing is exactly what will move things, right? Exactly what is going to move things. So I can understand, okay, I want to, I want to increase sales of my organization or I want to make my organization profitable. Yeah, that's the direction that I caught because, I'm able to be good at a holistic point of view. Now, the more important question is what exactly will move those needle and how exactly are you going to get there? So an operator has to sort of lay down the canvas, decide what they need to, paint so that people would like it or critics would like it. Objective could be anything, right? You need some 500 likes on this particular picture, for example. And then how do you do it? So you decide, okay, if I draw a picture, I'll get 500 likes. If I sing the song, I'll get 400. I decide to draw a picture. Then how do you do it? So that requires essentially you to have in-depth understanding of the one level down, two level down. Basically, you have to peel the onion and understand moving what and how is going to make me achieve the metric that I decide. So that I achieve my metric and I also achieve the right metric, which actually creates an impact. So that's essentially like an operator sort of a mindset because we all work in silos, we all work in our certain autonomies at certain points in time, especially for product and program both. Uh, and for any other management role, I would say autonomy is going to be a non-negotiable part of the career and the journey. So you need to understand कि आपको क्या चीज मूव करने से you and the objective could be anything. Objective could be meet org objective. Objective could be I want to get promoted. Objective could be I want to move from one function to the other. Any of it, right? You need to understand what, and then doing what will change those, right? And I'll talk about a few examples a little bit later. But coming to the actual skills wala question. Now, skills may I break it down into two things, right? The personality traits or the style of working is one bucket, and the actual skills which sort of actually help you solve the problem, right? Personality traits may there are many. I mean, to be honest, multiple companies have multiple models, but I would say the ones that I sort of I don't say that I showcase them, but I try to live up to them as much as I can. One is ownership. Second is being analytically correct, and third is being uh, strategic in terms of deciding what to do, and strategic in terms of making sure that you're able to have like a good enough basket of high probability winning projects, low probability winning projects, and very low probability high winning rate. So it's basically a sort of derivation of risk reward, but you need to balance out your risk because there will be a lot of unstructure and a lot of ambiguity in any of the management roles, especially product and program management. So those are the skills. If I sort of have to very quickly in one liner talk about ownership, what I mean by ownership is essentially you are able to be like the true owner, and the true owner is somebody who takes a problem statement, thinks that it is the question of his or her life and death, works across functions, across hierarchies to make sure that uh, we are working on a correct path, correct solution. We increases the probability of winning in that particular problem, solving that problem statement, and C does not really uh, care about getting his or her hands dirty, going sort of out of the way, uh, trying certain risky things with taking certain calculated risks. So ownership is something which is sort of, I would say, opposite of uh, working under prescriptions. Okay, I'm told that okay, you do X, Y, and Z things. You can still show ownership by doing that extra step and making sure if you're a developer, your work is not just to code, but also to make sure that you dev test it, right? Also to make sure that if you have the basic understanding of how the website, the rest of the components of the website work, or how my feature would affect the other components which I'm not touching, at least you apply a basic understanding and go that extra mile. That is, I would say, a true ownership, because otherwise it is just an execution, and you will. And I'm not really giving this or centering things around this particular example, but in order to sort of move beyond that circle and break through that circle and go beyond, you need to showcase that attitude of really becoming some problem statements parent, right?
Awesome. Awesome.
Uh, yeah.
This is insane, right? So again, I think most of you people in some capacity or the other would repeat what we have learned in the probably the first week. You take extreme ownership of the problem, you go out of your way. And secondly, another thing that I kind of it is like a validation moment for me also, because you said that it is the interesting bit or the interest part or my commitment which essentially took me to do a MBA or be in an environment where I want to learn everything every day. And that is something that we are essentially, and it was that community of people, right, in the college that
Yeah.
you learned from.
Yeah.
That's exactly what is happening here also, right? The
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
behavior.
Exactly.
So I think वो एक बहुत अच्छा validation moment even for me to better understand that.
Great.
But I think deeply I would also want to ask you a question from a slightly more seasoned lens. Like a lot of people here want to become very good product managers, and generally the thesis is that most people end up learning a lot of content and not really on the mindset layer, right? And the thing is that now that you look at decisions, because probably a decision that comes to you and says that your CEO says that you have to spend $500,000 and essentially make some sort of a product line, essentially generates like maybe $5 million in revenue or something like that. That is something that it does. So how do you essentially take notice of ambiguous problems? And to answer the second part of this question slightly is, how does ambiguity shape culture if you build ownership over there? Or what do you even mean by product culture? Like these people who have these questions, product culture, hota hi kya hai? What do you even mean by good product culture, right? You've been in Amazon, you've been in HUL, and in all capacities at different heights, matlab, good leader teams where they have built ownership, autonomy, and things like that. So my question to you first is, as a product leader, how do you handle ambiguity? That's one, right? And the second question is, what is good product culture according to you? Yeah.
Okay, understood. Ambiguity obviously is a non-negotiable part of everybody's life, work life. I mean, uh, I would say the best way to handle ambiguity, or at least from my past experiences, what I have sort of learned is uh, if you're working on a basket which is made up of ambiguous, semi-ambiguous, and high probabilistic clear-cut path type of problem statements or projects, uh, I would say balancing becomes easier. You need to essentially create a basket. So when I'm working on, say, any H1 strategy, H2 strategy, I need to make sure that the basket that I'm working on has a mix of all of these, because A, you don't want to put all eggs in one basket. We are not at a stage where we are 0 to 1 anymore, right? Uh, D, you can try out certain things in sort of what it does is essentially, even if in a worst case scenario, your ambiguous basket does not yield any results, you're still balanced at an overall layer whereby you are still adding value. And I'm not talking about utilization, I'm not talking about hitting targets, I'm talking about adding value to the end users of the product, right? So if you have that basket, essentially you're sort of minimizing that risk, and thereby you're also giving yourself enough freedom and chance to explore, because you know that okay, 30% of my basket is ambiguous, unknown, uh, high unknown uh, territory. I can put in more efforts. I can afford to make mistakes there because I'm sure that I'm definitely adding value on sort of these two fronts. That's one, and that sort of shapes up the whole culture. I would say is, and the culture is sort of again about balance. How do you balance? You can't only have a data-driven culture. You can't only have an engineering excellence culture. If you are only data-driven, you will only look at the problems which are justified and defined by data. Anything which is not justified by data, you will not sort of go after it. You will not be comparing apples to apples. You can't build engineering excellence oriented culture, because then you'll be working on only complex problem statements, right? Without making that trade-off between what adds value and what sort of is complex enough for somebody to get him or her that joy of working on complex uh, language coding solutions. um, you can't also work on product centric culture, because product centric culture is essentially minimum, or how do you sort of have that multiplier or a compounding effect. You essentially say spend 10 hours and you're able to generate an output worth say x $1 million. So how do you have that compounding impact? You can't even do that, because in that case you're completely ignoring certain foundational blocks and certain blocks which are more of a long term, or something that is ambiguous, or something that's more of a long term foundational nature. You're only working on either building 0 to 1, or you're working on incremental stuff. So I would say the culture is shaped from the balance between these three. Uh, Culture essentially would mean that uh, you should focus on. Uh, and when I sort of, I don't really talk about it. I don't express these things very often because these things are not very well documented. They're still shaping up. But in my mind, what I believe the culture is about is a, you find the balance first in speed and quality. The whole org, or the whole team should be thinking about how do I do something of a certain high standard in a time that's lesser than anticipated. Break that silo of speed versus time. If you do something at speed, you are essentially giving up the upon quality. How are you able to break that barrier? How are you able to deliver high quality stuff at speed, high quality iterations at speed? That's one. Second thing is about reducing the ambiguity. When we talk about ambiguous, there's an ambiguous portion, or there's an unknown portion in everything that we do. How do you reduce the impact? You reduce the impact by uh, making sure that you have a good learning framework. And by learning, I mean you can make mistakes, you can learn from these mistakes, and you have a chance of correcting these mistakes all within, say, a cycle of one sprint or two sprints. That would help you do three iterations, right? And that would increase the chances of you winning and increase the chances of the impact that you create. So how do you create that framework of, how do you sort of build that culture of, uh, which sort of fosters learning, which sort of, okay, you want to try something scrappy, please try something scrappy. Make sure that you follow principle number one, which is speed and quality. And, you're able to bring out something scrappy and make sure that you learn. You do something objectively and you learn. And, you record those and you incorporate those learning in the next iteration. That's second. And the third part is essentially, uh, I would say, is focus. And this is sort of like an ongoing debate between each team, each function, that, okay, when there is an interdependency, what are you focusing on? So you narrow down the surface area, right? Because product teams, engineering teams are supposed to be, and program management teams are supposed to be the leanest functions in the organization. If you want the leanest function in the organization to essentially generate a compounding or a multiplying output, you need to make sure that the surface area is as less as possible, right? You can't be working on 10 problem statements at a time, thereby diluting the focus, diluting the attention, diluting the quality. So these three, I would say, would shape a product culture, the team that's sort of driven towards finding out the right problems to solve, thereby narrowing focus, with not with an objective of reducing work, but with an objective of doing more justice to the smaller number of things that you are doing. So having that objectiveness. Second is, as I said, speed and quality hand in hand. And third is, as I said, fostering that culture of, making mistakes and learning from the mistakes.
So I took away three things, right? A culture of experimentation where you keep doing something repeatedly, take feedback loops,
Yeah,
and learn from that. Second, fostering a culture of autonomy and accountability. I think that's the second thing that I take. And the third thing is, which we talked about, optimal speed, optimal velocity, optimal impact. Velocity and
yeah,
impact are opposing forces. That's something that we spoke
yeah.
about, right? So very cool. So in the interest of time, we are 30 minutes above. I would want people to start raising your hands. Let's
Yeah.
awesome.
Hey,
Cool.
Hey,
I
So
hope
hi.
you.
hi.
Hi,
Sanjay,
Aditya. Hi,
over to
Aditya.
you. Over to you, please. Yes.
Hi, Aditya. Thank you for joining and
Yeah,
providing
thanks.
us such a wonderful insight in the initial part. So I would like to ask, like you were more into generous, I would like to ask something about more into Headout. I saw your profile in LinkedIn that you are the head of the product, okay, director of the product for Headout. So, and you joined in June 2021. So I know like Headout had raised a Series C on 30 millions of December 2021. So how was your contribution after that? Was there any kind of product successful that had happened? And what was one of the key factor of that success? So what went after this successful Series C, the 30 million raise? And as a director of product, how you worked on that? Like I just wanted to know more about it. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Aditya, you're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry. Okay. So, I mean, as a company, pre-COVID and post-COVID, we saw tremendous growth. And I'm not talking about during COVID versus post-COVID, pre-COVID and post-COVID, uh, almost to the tune of 3x in terms of GMV. We crossed uh, one $10 million worth of GMV. Next year we crossed 200, and last year we crossed $300 million worth of GMV. So we were seeing that growth, right? And being a company who is from uh, a sustainable business focus, which means that we are contribution margin positive and we are, sort of trending thin on the pack, but we are not burning money on customer acquisition. We are self-funded. We are self-funding our operations and growth. The money that we raised was on the back of two things. One, essentially, is after COVID, obviously, you need to have that foundation or that liquidity, right? Because now you need to, you come out stronger. You come out stronger and compete. So the money is for the long-term viability and the future of the company. Um, Obviously, I wouldn't say that funding has immediately led to any immediate outcomes or results, because there's nobody. I mean, nobody can tie one to one, and don't sort of quote me on this outside. But essentially, what we started doing is we started investing ahead, right? If you want to expand, so we built the product and engineering team. Uh, from say less than 10 to about slightly above 100 after COVID, right? That's essentially investing ahead of the curve because that will give you benefit. We started expanding into newer and newer regions geographically, right? So we there you want to make investments ahead of the curve. There's your cash flows and your contribution margins are not going to support all of this because you're investing ahead of the curve, right? So funding ensures that you are able to make these investments, you're able to make these leaps, still calculated, still not like somebody who will probably launch like a new business line, which is something where your probability of success is not very high. So we didn't do any such thing. We are at a steady pace. We are trying to expand into certain markets, prove that model, grow on and build on that model. Once you're doing and you make that as a self-serve program, and this is what essentially how program looks like an autonomous self-serve structure in an organization. You then start, building and growing, utilizing those investments for the other things. After funding, again, not related to funding, but after COVID, in terms of product, we have built a lot of things. I think we'll need to probably talk about that separately, but essentially the key breakthrough improvements happened on the customer retention, on the supply side platform, uh, on the conversion and payments. Uh, all of these were aimed at building foundational blocks, wherein either you're building table stakes or either you're solving for the embarrassments and you're building foundations, and also increment by which you mean you're getting an outsized impact on your GMV, your profitability, your customer NPS, and essentially CVR, which sort of feeds into your profitability and sales. So there were interventions on all of these fronts. We can definitely talk about that, sometime else about some of the success stories. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a
Awesome.
lot for that.
I would now bring, give me a second. Neha, I'm just bringing you into the spotlight. Give me a second. Yes, I'll just remove just a second. Yes, awesome. Neha, over to you, please.
Hi, Aditya. Hi, Shravan.
Hello.
Thank you so much for such a lovely journey you've had. So my question to you is, what's your take on the statement that fail fast to deliver fast, like in the agile way of doing something? And I'm talking about like if you see something from a lateral point of view, you're introducing something new to the market. So and it could be risky, it could be worth,
Yeah.
depends. So what has been your real lifetime experience like?
Yeah.
How would you see that? Yeah.
I mean, I have learned from it, and I would say it should not be fail fast to deliver fast. It's like fail reasonably to deliver a reasonable product. Because the only aim that you have here is to get signals. You know that a product uh, that sort of built in a hacky way or an MVP way is not going to get you outside return. But your objective is to get the signals. What all do you need to get those signals? You need to identify those, and whether you'll be able to execute them when we say fast. There is no objective definition of being fast. It could be 1 week, 1 day, one sprint, X percentage of time, right? So yeah, definitely the approach and the culture should be such that it supports failing, but you have to fail reasonably. You can't just fail. You can't try 10 iterations and expect if I try. It's not about the quantity. It's about uh, how do you build certain thing in a less amount of time with a probability. So each iteration that you're building is basically increasing the probability of success, right? So fail fast, yes, definitely. I would say fail reasonably to deliver outsized product is something which I have learned because I've done these things. Let's try iteration 1, 2, 3, 4, and okay, this doesn't make sense, right? I mean, this is something which is not working, and I don't know what's working and what's not working because I'm just saying thing 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I said, okay, then so for example, in an experiment, we realized the treatment version that was being served to the users were loading probably 3 to 3.5 seconds later than what the actual page should load like, right? So irrespective of how much ever interventions or iterations I did, it's never going to be successful. So I try to fix the right problem statement in that case. Okay, how do I reduce that lag? How can my treatment and the control cohorts would see my website or the product or the feature with the same latency, right? And that sort of started giving me the signals. And I didn't actually have to do a lot of iterations. So you need to sort of understand and not sort of be bound by this that, okay, I want to try 5 features in 5 months. Okay, you might try 3 features in 5 months, but each feature will have a higher probability of success, right?
Right. So you do whatever, but then you just, learn from it and then you grow.
I think
Yeah,
one point
exactly.
that I would want to also add, Neha, here is what essentially it means is that there is a point of optimal delivery. Sorry, optimal discovery, right? You
Yes.
cannot say you will do poor discovery and then ship something out and fail. No, I'll learn from feedback. The balance should be maintained by the product manager. That what is the optimal? Like you have 6 days to do a case study. Probably 3 days should go on discovery because you need 3 days to execute that across to present something to me. And then there is a probability to it that whether that 3 days discovery was optimal, whether you could look at the fundamental blocks, whether you could do that, right? Because decision time making, not making a decision is also a decision. Just telling you
Absolutely.
that. And the
Yeah.
wise person is that who doesn't learn from their mistakes. The wise person learn from other people's mistakes, right? So I think I just wanted to add that. Okay.
Yeah.
Other, I would
Thanks.
want to bring Tyagarajan. Yes, Tyagarajan on across in the spotlight. So Aditya
Hi.
Tyagarajan is joining us from Australia, by the way. So please meet.
Oh, hi.
Yeah,
It must be like past midnight for you. Thanks for
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
close to
staying
2
up.
a.m. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, thanks Aditya and Sharon for the session. I have like two questions. Maybe it will be a quick one. So one is like I was thinking about like as a product manager, lead or anything. Anyway, you will be like involved in prioritizing some way. Like I would say,
Right.
let's say it's an example as a product or feature or other. For me, like at high level, I'll see it will be like falling into two buckets, like with revenue or the business impact, because as you have with the financial background, is it like how well you manage or like just balance between these impacts? How do you, does your finance background give you some edge over or like some advantage? That is my first question. Other question
Okay.
is like more of your, I want to know like whether with the head out, is it like as of now, if you want to share, you can share like whether as of now, is it head out is solving any problem statement with latest technologies like AI or Gen AI or anything use case you're working on. So if you want to share, you can share, or it's like
Yeah.
still a secret, you don't want to disclose to the public, it's
No,
fine.
no, it's nice.
Yeah, that's all. That's my two
Thanks.
questions.
Thanks for the question. Interesting. I'll answer the second question first because that's something which I can uh, quickly talk about. Uh, yeah, AI. Yes, AI. We started from AI enabling and empowering the content piece, because as you know, travel or any e-commerce platform is a content heavy platform. There are a lot of things that description, highlights, policies, how to redeem, how to reach, etc., etc. It also has a portion of media, because media influences your choice. How something is going to look like. Okay, this is how the Eiffel Tower looks like. This is where I need to be. This is where I need to present my tickets, etc. So content and media form a great deal of influence on the incoming people, right? Whoever the users that are coming in, it forms. We are heavily utilizing AI, and by heavily, I mean I'm talking about in terms of the number of API calls that we make to OpenAI's service. So we use AI to modify and moderate our content for each new experience that is added. And we started this journey from two lessons. One is we want to reduce the turnaround time that goes in writing the manual content in a certain style, with certain grammar, with certain uh, guidelines or policies. And B, uh, we want to see if AI generated content can create more impact on delivering the essence better to the consumer, right? Uh, we saw the first one. We didn't get the proof of concept for the second one, because whatever you get from the OpenAI is, I mean, it technically can work without human intervention or human touch, but it's not something out of the world that it will be of such a great quality that it can really help you impact on the user experience. Uh, but yeah, first one we did, we saw some great improvements in terms of go live time. Our go live time reduced by more than 50%. Our content generation time um, went from, say, I would say on a scale of 100, if it was 100 minutes earlier, it now sort of narrowed down to about 12. So it sort of became one seventh or one eighth, right? So we saw that. We are now also working continuously on incorporating AI to enhance media, images, video content, to build video content, because the catalogs that you see on products, these are the stock images or images provided by the attraction or the service provider. How do you use these images to create like a video offering? Because videos, we have learned from the experiments that showcasing videos or having the native videos on your platform has, makes more users click and more users pass from the first step of the funnel, which is the landing to discovery, discovery to selection. So how do you utilize the media that you have, which is static media, to create assets like video with a commentary on audio? How do you utilize AI to start creating hundreds and hundreds of pages to scale your organic traffic, right? So these are the things which we have partially worked on and partly working on. And there's something which is exciting which we are working on, but I will probably talk about it once that sees light of the day. But which is truly utilizing, which is, I'll just talk about this, which is truly about utilizing AI, not just OpenAI models, but AI, LLMs, MLs, whatever way we want to call it as, to build like something which is an assistant to the users, which can assist the users while they're on the trip. Now, what shape and form will it be in? What all it can do? What's the GTM model, etc. Those things are not discussed here, but this is something which, like, the one version is something which we have live on our apps already. This is the first version of AI assistants on our app, where you can interact with and ask them, which are the top restaurants around me? What's the best cuisine? How do you say hi, hello in Arabic? If you, so we get a lot of Dubai users, so those are the questions. So where do I go for party? What are the best options? So which is not just limiting users to our use case attractions, experiences, things to do, but basically giving them like an open world. Okay, you can ask anything you want to, and this will be like your pocket guide. And sort of the plan is to sort of build and explore on top of this. Sorry for being slightly lengthy here. I get excited by these things. The first bit was about, do my finance knowledge helps me? I would say yes, to an extent, but the extent at which it helps me, it's the mental math. And I know engineers are better at maths than commerce people can ever imagine to be. So I'll restrict the example to arithmetic. So the calculations that you do on the fly, right? The data triangulation that you need while doing or while you are in the meeting with the stakeholders or with your team, wherein you have to explain a certain concept. You can't go into the depths of doc sheets, reports, visualizers, etc. So that mental math, or habit of having that mental math behind me, is something which has really, really helped me. You can not just convey this, you can also influence a lot if you are able to justify something mathematically and do it quickly, right? Rather than, okay, let's put it in Excel and make a table and do it. If you do it in 2 seconds, the chances of you creating an impact and influence is significantly higher. So that is one thing that helps. And second thing that helps me is the approach of making sure that I balance cost versus the impact. Because I also need to understand, it's not limited to how many hours are being invested in building a certain project. I sort of take that auditor mindset and sort of that conservative principle mindset from finance background, and I say, okay, I have the duty of making sure that these hours are utilized in the most productive and impactful manner. So how do I make choices and prioritization basis a little more cutthroat, uh, application of a little more cutthroat method, which is actually translating something into GMV or profitability or a dollar number, and comparing that dollar number versus what you're actually spending on those hours, and doing sort of those trade-offs. But I don't think that's like with the background. Yeah, I have been of help, but these are the things which you will anyways, people would learn from their experiences and would inculcate as habits.
I also think, just adding one more point to I think what Aditya is saying, Tyagu. I think AI is definitely going to help in that context, that it will improve your execution skill sets very fast, right? But I think that is a great point where a lot of times, which goes like 70% of the time goes in hands-on execution of things, right? Your time on discovery gets limited. So AI is definitely going to help there a lot, right? That you are significantly saving certain hours of your day, and you are a critical stakeholder in the company, and you spend that time on figuring out the right problem. How do you essentially do deeper analysis, and you come up with a more precise problem statement to kind of solve for, which has like higher chances of success. That is something that AI would definitely do in the future, for sure. Okay. I would now want to bring Mr. Jamdagni को लेके आइए आप, please. ठीक है? Apramaya, I want you here. Yes, Apramaya, over to you.
Aditya,
Aditya,
thank you for taking the
Aditya,
time to talk
one
to
small
us.
thing. One small thing. I would just extend this meeting to 8:40, 8:45. Would that be okay?
Yeah. Works for me.
Awesome. Please, Apramaya, over to you. Yes.
Aditya, since you mentioned you have a finance background, and typically I'm assuming that you were looking at lagging indicators in your business lines and probably deriving insights out of it. But as a PM, I think you would probably look at leading indicators, trying to brainstorm on them and actually figure out कि आप क्या करने से आपका business line ultimately grow होगा. So my question to you was, how did you change your thinking about thinking in terms of leading versus lagging indicators? And like if you can share some tips with us so that we also would learn from that.
How do you
I just want to have that.
Yeah, how do you change your mindset, rephrasing it from to look at
Yes.
signal, then rather than
Yes.
the facts? Because that's the
Correct.
dhande wale mindset se aap, how did you move that kind of a
Correct.
signal mindset where you can fail, definitely.
Yes.
I mean, partly it was thanks to the role at HUL, because the role was more about finding opportunities to optimize and to, achieve actual results. Yeah, I wasn't like the driver there or the only driver there, but sort of that mindset sort of started kicking in. And I think the way it really helped was to, there are two parts to it, right? So one is, as you said, it's like lagging indicator. Okay, what went correct, what did not go correct, and the next step is how do we course correct it. The moment you start thinking about how do we course correct it, there are two types of problems in the life. One can be emerging from the data or identified using the data, and one which cannot be identified using the data. So problem of what sort of business problem of more like which are of 0 to 1 nature, they don't necessarily stem from data, but at least what I started doing was something which was stemming from data, and my role also required me to do that, and the people around me sort of mentored me to do that, is to identify, okay, if the cost of transportation has gone up from 8% to 11.5% in a particular region of rain powder, how would you sort of bring up in control? Okay, then first thing is what went wrong. What went wrong? Okay, we know that this thing went wrong. Ultimately, we figured out that, okay, there was a change in the distribution mix, factory to the depots in Northeast. So we were like, okay, then we need to basically identify which is the right place to supply to the Northeast, wherein this cost would be in a certain range. And then we identified then that factory did not have enough capacity because of certain maintenance and overall. So we had to actually do a new capex. So the whole capex decision and the whole life cycle of the journey of moving from 11% to 8%, which stemmed from probably one observation, right, was immensely helpful in making me learn that, okay, if I can do this, now the next thing which I have to sort of switch into is switch the roles and say, okay, now onwards, I need to define the sourcing in a way that my transportation cost does not go beyond 8%, right? So once you have those answers, you sort of start building a certain heuristics of what is a standard, what is a threshold. And obviously there are industry benchmarks, there is past data, there is secondary research. And if you don't have anything, you just have to derive, right? You just have to derive something reasonable, maybe from another industry, maybe from another market. And once you start doing that, it sort of starts establishing things in your mind. Okay, this is the leading indicator which I want to target. So whenever the next time there's a question of profitability, right, I need to make now in a line of the example that I just spoke about. I would say, okay, my transportation cost should be brought down by 50 bps. And my average transportation cost should be at 7.5 bps. So everybody who is above 8.5% transportation cost automatically comes down by a certain bps, just by reducing a certain. So it sort of stems from the knowledge and stems from that mindset wherein you have to sort of think about, are you the owner of this? Are you the real owner. I was a real owner of the problem statement. Nobody would ask me कि बाबा ये क्यों हुआ, ये क्यों नहीं हुआ, right? So it's that step that you have to take, and depending on the colleagues that you get, depending on your inclination, depending on the community that you are part of, right? For example, for this community, you would learn some of these smaller points by with your interaction within the exercises that you do, assignments that you do, and you'll be able to get there. There's no mindset shift. You can't like shift and flip the mindset. You shouldn't do that, right? Because it's not nadi ke is par ya us par, right? You are in the river, right? If you are in the river, you have to be equally surrounded by land, water, everything. So you have to incorporate that mindset, and this is how you do sort of thing on the flip side, right?
I think one point would be one more interesting point is that living in constraints is a good thing, bro. Well, you should live in constraints. I think that's a life that everybody should cherish, right? If you have too much like abundance of resources and not of mindset, then I think you'd never do justice. I think abundance should be of mindset and not necessarily of resources, right? So it's something to ponder about. ठीक है, मैं next I would call कपाड़िया जी को लेके आओ. कपाड़िया जी आपको iPhone नहीं लिखना चाहिए for sure.
Sorry.
Thank you, Aditya.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah. So Aditya, firstly, looking at you, the composure and the patience and the traits that you have, I think it's commendable the way you are answering. So my question is going to be more around that as your personality. So as a product manager or in your career, can you tell me a time where your composure has been put to test, whether it has been emerged as a failure or success, doesn't matter, and how have you handled it?
Yeah, I think very good question. It sort of ties back to the whole influential stakeholder management sort of the style. So I believe that being influential and being very influential in stakeholder management is one of the key skills to survive at the product management vertical, not to probably excel at it, because that's where you will face a lot of breaking points. For example, something which is as simple as deadlines being missed to something which is as complex as you have put in effort, build a product after a few weeks or months of effort, only to realize that the calculations that you were relying on given by somebody were totally incorrect, and this is not going to generate the impact that you envisaged to generate. So yes, definitely there are many moments at which the patience would be put to test. I have extremely high tolerance to I don't get provoked at all, and but still and my colleagues also resonate this, and when they give certain examples within the org of some discussions wherein they say कि even Aditya का temper हिल गया था, मतलब something very grave would have happened, because otherwise he would never get angry. So these things do happen, and why these things happen is also important, is because you are not you are the owner, you have the fiduciary ownership role, but you don't control the working of anything that any team that's working on the problem statement or the solution that you have identified and deployed. Engineering team doesn't directly roll into you, nor does design, nor does data, nor does the stakeholder. So that's the most sort of frustrating part, which needs you to have the patience that you have to drive influence without having the responsibility of that team. You can drive responsibility within your your line of work, your hierarchy, your teams, your peers, etc., but not with these teams. So what you need to sort of understand to try to handle it tactfully is a while dealing with these stakeholders, you have to ask hard questions, and you should not feel ashamed or guilty कि बाबा मैंने थोड़ा ज़्यादा ही पूछ लिया है. I am becoming too much sort of micro I'm having too much micro lens, and I'm actually checking the data. You validate somebody's input. You don't rely on people's input. You figure out faster ways to sort of validate and make sure that you're able to align, right? And till the point you align, you basically have to exercise that you're driving certain vision, and you have to essentially repeatedly with same people, with different people, tell that, okay, what's the cost of not doing this? You have to answer, and you have to seek alignment on that. Okay, what is the cost of not doing this? And for doing this, I am not able to do why? Because the list of projects will be always be higher than what the bandwidth can handle. Okay, in order to do this, I am not doing this B. So in order to do justice to not doing B, you have to justify. So you can either put an onus on the party who is either the requester or the proposer or the stakeholder. That's the first thing that you can do. Second thing is whatever inputs that they give, you have to validate those inputs because they are giving inputs from a certain silo and from a certain lens. So you need to validate and fine tune those assumptions and the inputs. And the third thing is you have to essentially drive the culture of proactiveness within the whole org, not just your team, but even the engineering design team, data team, etc. If you make somebody if you make somebody feel like a true owner, they'll stop doing things that in turn have a secondary impact of frustrating you. Now I've been through this journey, and I've only seen improvements over past 3.5 years now. I've only seen improvements. So I used to get frustrated, never angry, but okay, why 90% of my projects are not delivered on time? Now the question is not how do you reduce that number. The question is that okay, 90 ka 100 ho sakta hai, 110 ho sakta hai. But how do I drive that culture whereby okay, I am notified somebody is taking a cognizance, and that sort of drove the change wherein actually that 90% number came down to a considerable amount, and with reasons, and you have a notice of it. So you have to be thoda sa acceptive also that things won't really go on deadline, things won't be of. So if you expect highest standards as much as you yourself imagine it to, it's not you who is version of you who is working there, it's somebody else. You need to taper down your expectation of standards also, but at the same time you need to nudge them to improve standards taki wo thoda incremental steps sort of lead you there. So patience you need to exercise till you do all of this, which would take a few years at least. So
sure. Awesome. I would bring Joydeep, then Harsh, and then Prashant, and then we'll close, right? Joydeep, can we bring Joydeep on screen? Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Aditya. So
Yes.
I have a question that you worked in HUL, which is a sort of an operations-driven organization. Obviously, physical products are there. Then you shifted to something to like brand advertisement in Amazon or even Headout, which are tech or product driven. So how do you build confidence in moving from a heavy operations driven organization to a tech or product driven organization? The reason why I'm asking is that certain times I faced hesitation whether to apply for those roles because it's completely different industry. If you can just guide.
yeah, okay, great. I think very important question, and I faced enough of, and I must say that it's not my credit; it's the ISB which sort of helped me, come over it. The mindset, yeah, everything is there, but at the end of the day, you need to sort of see that proof of concept, and you need to see sort of have that force behind you to sort of propel you into the uncharted territory. I would say, irrespective of the industry, right, irrespective of the background, what I believe is if you have a certain mindset and if you have a certain skills, and by skills I don't just necessarily mean the style of working, but also the skills which are core to problem solving. How good are you with data? If you are somebody who is very very good with data, you can do excellent in any role that requires data as a primary guiding factor for leading that function, right? If you are very good with creating hypothesis, testing hypothesis, and how do you go about learning from this hypothesis, you can again venture into any, be it operations, be it category, be it supply chain, be it marketing, be it product, be it program. The core underlying qualities of first principle thinking, being good with data, having or building the intuition of that the probability of the solution that I am thinking basis all of this is going to be very very high, having that conviction. And I would say the fourth thing is being a very effective contributor and coordinator, because you need to pool in efforts of people. If you have these four things, right, and these things are specific skills that you have to actually apply, learn from examples, and learn from the mistakes and think and grow in them. So if you have these, I would say there's no bar, there's no function that you cannot enter into, there's no function that you cannot excel in. So you can do pretty much as much as you want. Now getting there will be barriers to entry, right? Because if you are hiring somebody, you would want somebody who is working in your field, your function for past X number of years to come and join your team, so that the learning curve of that person and the time to impact that person, while skill that person is minimized. And that's the mindset with every other manager and the hiring teams out there would have. What you have to showcase is that given a chance, you have to showcase that the learning curve that, that you'll probably demonstrate will be much shorter, because you are showcasing these skills or these type of skills in your previous roles. You have learned to how to identify and sort of bring them from a subconscious mind to put them in frameworks and principles, and how to apply them in the real life. उसके आगे के जो सॉफ्टवेयर पार्ट है वो तो ऑन द जॉब भी हो सकते हैं. कंपनी स्पेसिफिक नॉलेज जो है या फंक्शन स्पेसिफिक नॉलेज जो है ना, हाउ अ डेटाबेस ऑफ अ सर्टेन कंपनी स्ट्रक्चर्ड चेंजेस फ्रॉम कंपनी टू कंपनी. अनलेस आई जॉइन दैट कंपनी, आई एम नेवर गोइंग टू लर्न दो, एंड आई एम नेवर गोइंग टू बी इफेक्टिव एट कंट्रीब्यूटिंग. So those things nobody is expecting from you. But how do you make sure that you are somebody who can learn? बाबा हाँ मुझे पता है इसको क्या क्या first principle thinking से. What are the things that somebody should look at? How to read data? Are you able to read and drive correct inferences or not? Are you able to talk to people effectively and get them to help you once you are in the organization? Those are the traits which people would look for in order to find somebody or giving somebody chance to from venturing from one field to the other. And I think what I would say is, fortunately, that is what has been tested in at least my interviews that I have given over the years. And that would be the theme which I'll be talking about when I talk about myself. It's not going to be about product, it's not going to be about program, it's going to be about problem, approach, solution, learnings, how I would have done differently. Next and next and next. So that is something which will definitely help you. So एक just advice दूंगा मैं, and this is the only piece of advice that I would give. Other things I won't call as an advice. Is whatever frameworks, principles that you learn here, from the view of first principle ho, या from the view of being data ho, या from the view of product sense ho, you should go back, look at your resume, and you say, okay, if I would have applied these, how would my resume had panned out? And if you are a fresher, if you don't have a resume, you do it on a fictional problem statement or hypothetical problem statement. But you look back at those problem statements, applied there, and how you would have done things differently, and what would have been likely different outcomes. That is something which will get you ready to, be like a function-specific silo to like a more generalist and more problem solver at core, right? So yeah, that's.
Yeah, एक ही question.
I'm sorry for the.
I think we are right in the interest of time. I'll just allow Harsh to. I will put your question across to Aditya going forward. Please, in the interest of time. Harsh, can Harsh be brought under the spotlight? एक बहुत interesting बात I think जो आदित्य ने अभी repeat की, which is again that I consistently keep speaking about, is that any type of experience can be tailored as a product experience. Any type of experience, right? Because it is just about changing the lens, right? And seeing that user ke liye kya hua? What happened for the user, right? And if you can justify that at scale, whatever your background is, arts, economics, even if you're a doctor, for all that I care, anything can be turned into a product. Even if you're building a hospital, right? You're still serving users, right? So you just have to tell how did that happen. So ye kahani does not work, right? I didn't have a product background, or I am from this background, and I cannot showcase my experience as a product manager. Product management yahan hoti hai. It's about building stuff and how rightly you build stuff, right? It doesn't necessarily be on title. Okay, sorry. Harsh, over to you, please.
Hi, Ankit. First of all, thank you very much for tuning in and showering us with your experience and knowledge. I have one basic question. Is that since inception of the travel tech industry, the perceived and the true value, there has been a wide gap between a perceived and true value in terms of first thing is, how do you solve it, and how is scalability? How do you keep in mind that scalability doesn't affect that back again?
Okay. Okay, are you talking in terms of the actual experiences, which is the real life experience?
I think what is sold and what actually the customer gets, there's quite a lot of difference, right? And because you're selling something and saying that this will be the best hotel for you, and then the customer reaches the hotel and sees that probably it's not the same kind of hotel that you essentially were offering. So, and that results in a bad experience, right? How do you solve for that? That what are you selling and versus what you're actually getting? Yeah.
Okay. So there are, I mean, obviously, first thing is about setting the expectations right? For example, and I'll take an example from my industry. If, say, for a ticket to Vatican Museum, Vatican City, Sistine Chapel in Rome, there's a 45-minute to 1 hour line, even though you have a skip the line ticket, because skip the line tickets, skip the line, the lines are so huge, right? For skip the line also, you'll have to stand in a 1 hour line. For others, you'll have to stand probably in 4 hours long line. So how do you incorporate this information in the product in a way that it does not sort of uh, throw people off by saying, okay, I'm buying skip the line, but this website is saying in skip the line also there's going to be a queue. So how do you communicate it in a way where users are not thrown off, but at the same time their expectations are built correctly and as close to reality as possible, right? Some of more examples are more around the pictures, right? Thankfully, in our case, the structures and monument still look in real life as they look in the pictures. So that's a good part. So disparity there is not huge, not as high as food items for that matter. But even in those cases, even if you're selling food items or hotel rooms, you need to be realistic. So the images that you draw, if you're ordering Meghna biryani, it's sorry for all the lovers of Meghna biryani, it can't look whatever you call as delectable and fancy. It can't. I mean, it has to look shitty in those aluminum thalis. So you can't show that because then people, new users would never buy that. But you cannot also show like an aromatic biryani or Behruz ka photo in place of Meghna. So you need to make sure that the expectations are tailored by making sure that you're doing the right choice, right? It's like, and it's basically like, you know, I didn't want to give this example, but having that balance कि आपका dating app के profile में picture क्या है and आप real life में कैसे आपकी personality and आप दिखते हो, you need to balance that out, otherwise user convert नहीं होगा और convert होगा तो भी वो मतलब convert नहीं होगा. So you need to find that balance. I would say that's one thing. How do we now? The interesting question is how do you find these gaps and reduce them? एक तो proactively find करो, where you have your people, where you have yourself, when you actually talk to the users and understand. Second thing is you build an NPS. Now NPS can take many forms, but you build like a good feedback mechanism of users, a structured feedback mechanism. ताकि my user tells me, okay, if I'm from Swiggy, okay, food packaging was horrible. Food was not tasting very good. It was too overpriced. Then I know, okay, price is a mismatch, packaging is a mismatch. What are the mismatch for? In terms of our use case, users tell us, okay, it was very difficult for us to find the entrance. The QR codes you sent us didn't work. I was not able to find the guides. I still had to stand in line in spite of the fact that I had bought skip the line tickets, right? So we immediately take cues from these, and this has to be a structured feedback process. You get these points, जहाँ पे there is an expectation mismatch and a big expectation mismatch. People also talk to us about toilets being unclean at these places, etc. We don't care because we can't control it. But whatever we can control, we make sure that we loop it in into the product, whereby you inform the consumer. Now, a line होने वाली है आपको, you need to be prepared before you sort of go there. Somewhere kids are not allowed, you need to be prepared. Vatican City में sleeveless wears are not allowed. You need to inform that you should not wear sleeveless. What is included, what is not included? Can you carry a tripod? Can you carry a stroller? The comprehension of information that you present is the key to success. And उसमें से आप फिर ये जो कुछ critical points है उनको you can specifically highlight. Our sleeveless तो नहीं पहनना है वरना you won't be taken inside. So that is something which is highlighted. Other things are mentioned. If somebody wants to do in-depth reading, they can read. But the thing is, you should have that repository. That's the first step to reduce that. And then constant observations and improvements. It's like a feedback cycle for us. And I think this is how it works for other industries as well, right?
Awesome. Cool. So two things I would definitely want to add. A lot of times for you guys also to understand, it's not necessarily about that the customer needs a product, right? Or needs a solution. It's about the feedback loop. Do you close that? Do you communicate that to it? That we have heard you. We have actually heard you. We are working on it, right? That is a very good sentiment. And people by design in general, I tend to believe that they are generous by nature, right? They are okay as long as they're being heard. The problem with most feedback systems is there is no hearing loop. A lot of times when I don't know how to build this feature, I typically say, okay, I have thought of it. I know the problem. I'll figure out a solution and I'll consistently communicate to you where I am with it. And I think that's where the customer would automatically feel it. Cool. So the last thing, guys, the one typical what we have as a photo session that we do with the guest that we typically do across, right? So I want all of you to please showcase your faces to please across, and this is the first session that please everyone सबके चेहरे दिखने हैं मेरे को, ठीक है? हाँ, बिल्कुल, बहुत बढ़िया, ठीक है? So at the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Can you do like this? That would be amazing. Yeah. Give me a second. I need to make the second channel also. Right. Awesome. बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत उम्दा. And the only thing that I would want to say here, Aditya, is that thank you very much. You have been very kind.
Thank you.
A lot of validation for me also personally, because I'm pretty sure these guys, when they will look at the session, they will feel that these are the same things that I consistently keep reiterating, but hearing it from somebody else's mouth. और वैसे भी ये मेरी बात ज़्यादा सुनते नहीं हैं, ये बात सत्य है, ठीक है? तो जब
आपकी सुननी चाहिए. I mean, I must say that you folks are I mean, you couldn't have been under the better person in terms of being like a mentor, being your friend rather, to sort of help you learn and help you grow. So Shravan is the best person, of course. And thanks, Shravan, and thank you all for calling me or making me feel special. I am not. We are all in the same boat, right? So I just wanted to wish you all the best, and would like any opportunity in the future wherever I can be of any help. Just let me know anytime. I may not be very prompt on LinkedIn, but yeah.
The only thing that I want you to do, Janta, today is twofold. 2 सवाल. एक, अब इस सेशन का सारा फीडबैक मुझे जनरल चैनल पे चाहिए. आपने क्या सीखा, क्योंकि ये सारा मैं आदित्य को दूंगा, ठीक है? It is evident, it shows gratitude to the speaker that who is coming. That is the first thing. Second, आज मुझे चाहिए कि आदित्य के फॉलोअर डबल हो जाए लिंक्डइन पे. तो मुझे नहीं पता, तो आपको ये करना पड़ेगा. This is the minimum that you can do for the time that he has spent across. And another announcement, next week, next Thursday, the speaker who is going to come is a very seasoned speaker like Aditya. It's Vikram Srinivasan. He will be speaking on AI for PMs, right? He was a professor at IISc Bangalore as well as NUS Singapore, and he's currently a startup entrepreneur, right? He initially sold his company to Target. So once again, after this, Aditya, thank you very much. This was a privilege to be here. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Here's the photograph. और आप अब LinkedIn थोड़ा चेक करिए, क्योंकि अब आपके फॉलोअर तो डबल होने वाले हैं. ये तो मैं आपको क्लियर बता रहा हूँ, ठीक है? So awesome guys, lovely.
Thanks, folks.
Yeah.